I have to be honest with you right out of the gate today. I'm feeling it.
Feeling it?
And by it, I mean the absolute just crushing weight of modern existence. I was looking at my metrics this morning.
Oh, boy.
Just the standard dashboard of life, you know? Career trajectory, social media engagement, my email response times, whether I've optimized my hydration levels and my brain just sort of short-circuited. It wasn't a panic attack exactly. It was more like a dread attack.
A dread attack. I think a lot of people know that feeling.
It's that feeling that if I stop pedaling for 1 single second, the entire bicycle falls over and immediately catches fire. I feel like I am carrying this massive, invisible backpack of expectations, and I'm pretty sure half of the rocks in there aren't even mine.
It sounds like you are perfectly primed for today's deep dive. You've essentially laid out the exact problem statement that philosophers have been trying to solve for about 2,500 years.
So 2,500 years. So this isn't new.
Not at all. That sensation of the bicycle catching fire is what the Buddhists would call dukkha, or, what the existentialists might call the dizziness of freedom.
Please tell me they found a solution, because I am drowning in caring. I care about everything. I care about the email I sent 3 minutes ago that hasn't been replied to yet. I care about the 5-year plan. I care about what some anonymous avatar on Twitter thinks about my haircut. I'm excited.
That is the hook, isn't it? The anxious seeker, which is the role you are inhabiting quite perfectly right now, is constantly looking for control in a chaotic world. You're trying to grip water so tight that it stops flowing.
That's a good way to put it. I'm trying to grip water.
But the wise guide, which I will attempt to be today, has a counterintuitive proposition. What if the answer isn't to care more or to care better?
What then?
What if the answer is to learn the art of not caring?
See, I have to stop you right there. Because when you say not caring, my brain immediately goes to, so I should just give up. I should just lie on the couch, eat potato chips, let the world burn, and ghost my boss. Because that just feels like apathy. And frankly, in this economy, I can't afford apathy. Apathy gets you fired.
And that is exactly where we need to start. We have to clear up that definition immediately because it's the biggest barrier to entry here.
Yeah.
The mission of this deep dive is to explore the art of not caring, but in a rigorous philosophical sense.
Okay.
It is absolutely not about apathy, laziness, or disregarding the feelings of others. It isn't about being a jerk.
Right. It's not an excuse to be a bad person.
Exactly. It is about a strategic economy of energy.
A strategic economy of energy. Okay, that sounds less like giving up and more like, budgeting.
Precisely. Think of your mental and emotional energy as a bank account with a very limited daily balance. We tend to think our energy is infinite, but biologically, it isn't.
So true. I hit a wall at 3 p.m. every day.
Right now, you are spending pennies and dollars on everything that walks by. The traffic, the weather, the rude comment, the stock market tick. What we are going to look at today, through the lens of history's greatest thinkers, is how to stop spending that currency on things that yield no return.
Things I can't control.
Things you cannot control, so you can spend lavishly on the things that actually matter.
So it's about ROI, return on investment for my anxiety.
In a way, yes. We are building a portfolio of caring that actually pays dividends in serenity.
Okay, I can get behind that, but I'm going to need more than just a hang-in-there cat poster today. Who are we consulting? Because my problems feel very 21st century.
We have quite the council assembled, and trust me, their problems were just as high stakes, if not more so. We are going to talk to the Stoic emperor who ruled the known world, but in his mind owned nothing.
Marcus Aurelius.
We'll visit the garden philosopher who realized we're all running on a hedonic treadmill long before Instagram existed. We'll look at the Danish existentialist who basically invented the concept of anxiety, the Buddha who diagnosed the root of your suffering, and the radical individualist who told us to build our own values.
That is a heavy hitters list. Are we going to get bogged down in academic theory though? Because I don't have time to write a thesis.
No thesis required. The promise of this deep dive is simple. By the end of this hour, we want to give you a shortcut to being well-informed on how to navigate life with serenity. We want to move you from that clenched fist tension you described in the intro to an untroubled mind.
An untroubled mind. That sounds like a superpower.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this. Where do we even begin with something so huge?
We have to start with the foundation. We have to define the goal. You mentioned you're stressed about career, metrics, expectations. Why? What's the end game?
Because I want to be happy or, satisfied. I want to feel like I'm doing good. I want the validation that my time on Earth wasn't a total waste.
Right. Happiness. Philosophy, at its core, is the love of wisdom regarding that fundamental question, what is happiness? And before we get to the not caring part, we have to realize that history doesn't even agree on what happiness is.
Really?
Not at all. And if you're chasing the wrong definition, you're going to be anxious forever.
It's not just like smiling and having a good time.
Well, not according to Aristotle. For him, happiness was eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia.
It's often translated as flourishing or human flourishing. It's not a fleeting emotion like I just ate a great taco. It's a state of being. It's about living a life of virtue and fulfilling your potential as a human being. It's actually hard work.
Okay, so that's the high road happiness. That sounds like the kind of happiness you feel when you finish a marathon, not when you're watching Netflix.
Exactly. Then you have the utilitarians, people like Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. For them, happiness was basically a math equation.
A math equation.
It was about maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain for the greatest number of people. The greatest good for the greatest number.
That sounds exhausting in a whole different way. Trying to calculate the happiness of the masses, that just sounds like being a politician.
It can lead to some very difficult ethical corners, what they call the repugnant conclusion in philosophy, where you might justify some pretty terrible things if the math works out for the majority.
Yikes.
But then, just to bring the mood down a little before we build it back up, you have Arthur Schopenhauer.
Oh, boy. I know Schopenhauer. He's the godfather of pessimism, isn't he?
He makes a goth teenager look like a cheerleader. His view was that the will to live is this blind, irrational, striving force that pushes us all around. He believes life is fundamentally filled with suffering, and so happiness is merely the temporary absence of suffering.
Wow. So the best you can hope for is neutral.
For him, the goal was to reduce desire to zero so you couldn't be disappointed, to sort of opt out of the will's game.
See, that all sounds great in theory, but how does a definition help me when I'm freaking out about a deadline? If I tell myself happiness is eudaimonia while I'm staring at a spreadsheet that won't balance, it doesn't really lower my heart rate.
No, it doesn't.
It feels like telling someone who is drowning to contemplate the nature of water.
That is a perfect and a very fair critique. Definitions are the map, but they aren't the vehicle. To actually drive out of anxiety, we need a tool, a weapon, really. And that brings us to our first major stop, Stoicism.
Okay, Stoicism. I feel like this is having a huge moment right now. It's all over Silicon Valley. Be like a rock. Suppress your emotions. Take ice baths. Is that what we're talking about? Because I don't want to be an emotionless robot.
Yeah, we need to clear that up immediately. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion. It's not about having a stiff upper lip. It's about the domestication of emotion.
Domestication, like a wild animal.
Exactly. It's about not being enslaved by it. It's about training it. And to understand this, we have to look at one of its most powerful teachers, Epictetus.
Epictetus. He's the one who was a slave, right?
Yes. And that context is absolutely crucial. A lot of people quote Marcus Aurelius, the emperor. And sure, when the guy who owns the world tells you life is what you make it, you might roll your eyes and say, easy for you to say you live in a palace.
Right. It's a little different when you're at the top.
But Epictetus was born a slave in Phrygia, in modern-day Turkey. He was owned by a very wealthy and powerful secretary to Emperor Nero. And there is a story, and historians debate the details, but the legend itself is powerful, that his master, Epaphroditus, was torturing him by twisting his leg.
Jesus. That's brutal.
And Epictetus calmly looked at him and said, if you keep twisting, you will break it. The master kept twisting and the leg snapped.
Oh my God.
Epictetus didn't scream, he didn't cry out. He just looked at his master and said, I told you that you would break it.
Okay, that is not calm. That is otherworldly. That is terrifyingly composed.
It demonstrates the absolute core of his philosophy. He realized in that moment that his body belonged to his master. His leg could be broken. But his mind, his reaction, his judgment, his internal state belonged only to him.
So no one could touch his inner self?
No one. He later gained his freedom, walked with a limp for the rest of his life, and taught philosophy to the most powerful men in Rome. He wrote the Enchiridion, which means the handbook, and he gave us the single most important tool in the art of not caring, the dichotomy of control.
The dichotomy of control. Okay, let's break this down because I feel like I know it in theory, but I absolutely do not practice it.
It is the ultimate sorting mechanism for your brain. Epictetus says there are two categories in life, just two. Category A, things within our power. This includes our opinions, our motivations, our desires, our aversions, basically, our own internal operating system, our choices, our judgments.
Okay, my inner world, I get that. In category B.
Things not within our power. And this is the list that shocks people. Our body, our property, our reputation, our status, our office.
Whoa, hold on. I have to push back here. My reputation isn't in my control. My status at work isn't in my control. That feels completely wrong. If I work hard, I get the promotion. If I'm a good person, people like me. If I produce good work, my reputation grows.
That's cause and effect, right?
That is the illusion. That is the trap. That is exactly where the anxiety you feel comes from.
Ow.
You can influence those things, sure. You can prefer them, but you do not control them. Let's play this out. You can be the kindest, most competent person in the world, and someone might still dislike you because you remind them of their ex-husband.
Okay, fair.
You can work the hardest, stay late every single night, and the company might go under due to a market shift in China you had nothing to do with. Or the boss might just decide to give the promotion to his nephew.
That happens. It definitely happens.
So you see, your hard work is in your control. The promotion is not. Your actions are in your control. Your reputation, which is what other people think of your actions, is not.
Okay, but it's terrifying to admit that.
Yeah.
Because it feels like I'm giving up control. It's the opposite. You're giving up the illusion of control, which is the source of the anxiety. If you tie your happiness to those external things, to category B, you are handing the keys to your emotional well-being, to strangers, to algorithms, to luck. You're essentially saying, I will only be happy if you decide I am good.
Oof, that hits hard. So let's apply this directly to the modern creator economy stress I mentioned earlier, or even just normal corporate life. I post a project or I give a presentation. I immediately start obsessing over the result. I refresh the page to see the views. I check my email to see if the client praised me.
Right. So in the Stoic view, the trap is obsessing over the views, the likes, the algorithm changes, or the client's praise. Those are all external. You cannot force an algorithm to like you. You cannot force a client to be in a good mood when they read your email.
So what is the shift? How do I stop caring about that without stopping working? Because if I don't care about the result, won't I just produce garbage?
No. This is where the famous archer metaphor comes in. A Stoic archer cares deeply about his stance. He cares about the quality of the bowstring. He cares about his breathing, the tension in his arms, his aim. He focuses 100% of his energy on releasing the arrow perfectly. That is all internal.
Okay, I'm with you.
But the moment the arrow leaves the string,
The wind could take it.
the wind takes it. The target might move. A bird might fly in front of it. A soldier might stumble into its path. Once the arrow is loose, the archer does not care about the outcome. He has done his job.
So his satisfaction comes from the quality of the shot, not whether it hits the bullseye.
Exactly. If he hits the target, great. A preferred outcome. If he misses, he is still satisfied because he shot well. His self-worth isn't riding on the arrow. It's in the action itself.
So the art of not caring in Stoicism is essentially saying, I care deeply about the process. I do not care about the outcome.
Precisely. It requires practicing indifference to the outcome. That's the key phrase. You're not apathetic. You're indifferent to things outside your control. It preserves your peace of mind.
It reminds me of Marcus Aurelius. Here's a guy who had, what we think of as ultimate power. He was the emperor of Rome. He could have anything he wanted. Why was he so stressed?
Because he was managing the decline of an empire. He had the Germanic tribes attacking the northern border, the Parthians invading from the east, a massive plague that wiped out a third of the population, likely smallpox, and a co-emperor who was a bit of a liability. He was arguably the most stressed man in history.
And yet, in the middle of all that, he wrote the Meditations.
Which were his private journals. He wasn't writing for us. He was writing for himself. He was coaching himself on Stoicism every single morning in his tent on the battlefield.
What did he write?
Things like, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking.
It is all within yourself, even for the emperor.
He understood that even as emperor, if he tied his happiness to victory in the north or ending the plague, he would be miserable because those things were not entirely in his control. He had to tie his happiness to, did I act with virtue today? Did I do my duty as best I could? The process, not the outcome.
And Seneca, he was the other big pillar here. He was Nero's tutor, which, yikes. Talk about a tough job.
A very, very tough job that ultimately got him killed. Seneca is great for the anxious seeker profile because he wrote specifically about time and anxiety. He said, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future.
Anxious dependence, that is the phrase. That is my life. I am anxiously dependent on tomorrow going well. I can't enjoy dinner tonight because I'm worried about tomorrow's 9 a.m. meeting.
So Seneca would ask, why? You have tonight. You don't have tomorrow's meeting yet. If you are anxiously dependent on the future, you are suffering in advance. You are borrowing trouble that may never come.
He had that great line about imagination, right?
He did. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality.
I feel attacked by a 2,000-year-old Roman.
We all do. We build these elaborate catastrophe scenarios in our heads that almost never happen. The art of not caring in Stoicism is the ultimate shield. It deflects the stuff you can't control so you can stay focused on what you can.
I like that image, the Stoic shield. But I'll be honest, Stoicism can feel a bit stark. It's like eating plain oatmeal. It's good for you, but it's not exactly fun. Let's move to something that sounds a little more pleasant. Let's talk about the garden.
Ah, yes. Epicureanism.
Now, when I hear Epicurean, I think of a foodie. I think of someone who loves fine wine, expensive cheese, maybe a spa day. Eat, drink, and be merry. That's hedonism. Right?
And that is the biggest PR disaster in philosophical history. Poor Epicurus has been completely and utterly misunderstood for 2,000 years.
Right, so he wasn't throwing lavish parties.
Quite the opposite. We use the word hedonist now to mean a party animal or a glutton. But Epicurus would have been horrified by modern consumerism. He wasn't about excess. He was about ataraxia.
Ataraxia? That sounds like a prescription drug for high blood pressure.
It feels like one. It's the Greek word for tranquility or untroubledness. His goal wasn't to chase high highs. His goal was to eliminate fear and pain. He believed that the absence of pain is the highest pleasure.
The absence of pain is pleasure. That's a different way to think about it.
It is. And to understand it and how it relates to not caring, you have to know that Epicurus broke pleasure down into two types. This is key. First, you have kinetic pleasure.
Kinetic, like movement.
Exactly. This is the active satisfaction of a desire. You are hungry, you eat a burger, it feels great while you are eating it, there is a dopamine spike. But what happens 20 minutes later?
I'm not hungry anymore, but soon I'll be hungry again, or I feel gross, or I want dessert.
It is fleeting. It passes. It leaves a void that needs to be filled again. That's kinetic pleasure. Then you have katastematic pleasure.
That is a mouthful.
It is. But it's the good stuff. Katastematic pleasure is the state of static contentment. It is the feeling of simply not being in pain and not being in need. It's a peaceful state of being satisfied.
So it's not the feeling of eating the burger, it's the feeling of not being hungry.
Precisely. And Epicurus argued, we spend our whole lives chasing kinetic pleasure, the new car, the promotion, the viral hit thinking it will lead to happiness. But it just keeps us on the treadmill.
The hedonic treadmill. We run and get nowhere because we just adapt to the new pleasure and need another one.
Exactly. Epicurus literally retreated from the hustle of Athens. He bought a garden on the outskirts of the city and just hung out with his friends, eating bread, drinking water, and talking philosophy.
Living on bread and water. Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here. That sounds incredibly boring. If I tell my friends, hey, let's not go to the concert, let's sit in my yard and eat crusts, I'm going to lose my friends.
But look at the cost of the concert. The tickets, the traffic, the crowds, the ringing ears, the hangover tomorrow, Epicurus would ask. Is the kinetic pleasure of the concert worth the pain and anxiety required to get it? Usually he said no.
So he was a cost-benefit analyst for happiness.
In a way. He believed that the desire for wealth, fame, and power were not natural desires, like the desire for food or friendship. They were instilled by society. And because they are unnatural, they are insatiable. You can never have enough fame. You can never have enough money.
That is hitting home so hard right now. It's the modern doom-scrolling loop. I look at Instagram, I see someone's curated life on a yacht, and suddenly I feel inadequate. My nice apartment isn't enough anymore. I want what they have.
Epicurus has a quote for that. If thou wilt make a man happy, add not unto his riches, but take away from his desires.
Take away from his desires. So the art of not caring here is literally stop wanting stuff.
Stop wanting the wrong stuff. Stop caring about the social comparison game. Epicurus believed that if you have good friends, basic food, and simple shelter, you have everything needed for katastematic pleasure, for tranquility. Everything else is just noise that brings anxiety. He was basically the original minimalist.
But there is one big anxiety that Epicurus tried to tackle that goes way beyond just stuff. The ultimate anxiety.
The fear of death.
Yeah, that's a big thing to not care about. Most of us spend our whole lives terrified of the end.
He believed it was the root of almost all other fears, the fear of oblivion. Epicurus lived in a time of great superstition. People were terrified of the gods, terrified of being punished in the underworld.
So how did he deal with it?
He used physics. Epicurus was an atomist. He followed the physics of an earlier philosopher, Democritus.
Physics, like atoms and the void.
Exactly. He believed the soul was made of atoms, just like the body. When you die, those atoms simply disperse. There is no hell, no judgment, no eternal suffering. Just dissolution.
Okay, but ceasing to exist is also pretty scary.
Is it? He used a simple, elegant piece of logic to dismantle the fear. He said, "When we exist, death is not. And when death exists, we are not."
So we never actually meet death.
Precisely. From your first-person perspective, you will never experience being dead. You are only ever alive. So worrying about the state of non-existence is irrational. It's like being afraid of the time before you were born. Were you scared then?
No, I wasn't there.
He believed this fear poisons our present enjoyment. We can't enjoy the meal because we are worried about the meal ending. We can't enjoy life because we are worried about life ending.
So by not caring about death, we liberate life.
We liberate the present moment. We stop hoarding time and start actually using it.
That is a powerful shift. Okay, so we have the Stoic shield for control and the Epicurean garden for simple pleasures and freedom from fear. But I want to jump forward in time. Let's go to 19th century Denmark. Because honestly, sometimes my anxiety isn't about death or status. It's about choice.
The paralysis of possibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Analysis paralysis. I have so many options. I could be a writer, a coder, a traveler, a parent. I could move to a new city, and I'm so terrified of making the wrong move that I make no move at all. I feel like I'm standing in a hallway with 1,000 doors and I'm just freezing in the middle.
Enter Soren Kierkegaard, the father of existentialism. A man who was deeply neurotic, deeply religious, and arguably one of the most anxious people to ever live.
Sound like my kind of guy.
He would have understood you perfectly. He diagnosed what he called the dizziness of freedom.
The dizziness of freedom, that is exactly what it feels like. It's vertigo.
Kierkegaard looked at the modern world, and this was the 1840s, so imagine what he would say now with the internet. And he saw that as we get more freedom, we get more anxiety, because every choice implies the death of all other possibilities.
Wow, the death of possibilities.
If you choose career A, you kill career B. If you marry person X, you cannot marry person Y. And the pressure to choose correctly is crushing.
I feel that so much. I feel like there is one right path for my life, and if I miss it, I ruin everything.
Kierkegaard's own life was defined by this struggle. He fell deeply in love with a woman named Regin Olsen. They were engaged. It was, by all accounts, what he wanted. But he was tormented by the idea that he would be a bad husband, or that his deep melancholy would ruin her life. He called himself a splinter in the side of the world.
So what did he do? He ghosted her.
Worse. He couldn't just tell her the truth. He intentionally acted like a scoundrel to make her hate him, so she would move on more easily. It was this twisted, complex act. But he regretted it, or at least obsessed over it, for the rest of his life. He churned out book after book trying to process the nature of choice and commitment.
So what is his solution? How do we not care about making the wrong choice if the stakes are that high?
We have to accept that logic cannot save us. You can make pro-con list until you are 90 years old. You will never have enough information to guarantee the outcome of a major life decision. The future is a blank void. Reason can only take you to the edge of the cliff. It can't tell you if you'll fly.
That is not comforting, expert speaker. You're telling me I'm flying blind.
It isn't meant to be comforting. It is meant to be honest. His solution was what he called the leap of faith.
I've heard this term, usually in a religious context, right?
It is religious for him. He was talking about faith in God, but we can absolutely apply it secularly. The leap is the act of acting with conviction despite the uncertainty. It is accepting that you cannot know and acting anyway.
So it's giving up on the need for certainty.
Exactly. The art of not caring here is about stopping the care for prediction. You stop obsessing over, what if this goes wrong? And you just jump. You commit to the choice fully without looking back.
He had that famous quote about living life, right? About backwards and forwards.
Yes. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards.
Oh, I love that. But it's also incredibly frustrating.
It's profound. We want to understand the story before we write it. We want the guarantee that the business will succeed or the relationship will work before we commit. Kierkegaard says, impossible. You have to live it forward into the fog. You will only understand if it was the right choice 10 years from now when you look back at the patterns.
So not caring here is actually, it's a form of courage.
Precisely. It is the courage to say, I don't know, and I don't care that I don't know. I am moving anyway. For him, anxiety isn't a symptom of illness. It's a symptom of freedom. If you weren't anxious about your choices, it would mean you had no choices to make. You would be free.
That is really liberating. It takes the pressure off getting it right immediately. It shifts the focus from the outcome of the choice to the act of choosing.
Yes, the paralysis is the enemy. Making a mistake is better than the stagnation of never choosing.
Okay, I'm feeling a little braver. I'm ready to leap, but I still have this nagging feeling. We've talked about Europe a lot, the Greeks, the Romans, the Danes. Let's go east, because I feel like Buddhism has a very specific take on caring and attachment. And honestly, sometimes the leap feels too aggressive. Sometimes I just want peace.
Then let's sit under the Bodhi tree. If Stoicism is the shield and existentialism is the jump, Buddhism is the solvent. It dissolves the very thing that causes the pain in the first place.
Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, he was a prince who had everything, right? He was protected from all suffering.
Yes. The story goes, his father, the king, built him a palace, gave him riches, dancing girls, everything he could want. The king was terrified of a prophecy that said his son would become a great spiritual leader instead of a king, so he tried to shield him from all suffering.
But it didn't work.
It never does. When Siddhartha finally stepped outside the palace walls, he saw what are called the four sights: an old man, a sick man, a corpse, and a holy man. He was traumatized. He realized that pleasure, the Epicurean kind or the hedonistic kind, was just a temporary distraction from the inevitable suffering of existence.
So he went to the extreme other side. He became an ascetic.
He did. He starved himself. He slept on thorns. He tried to conquer suffering through self-denial. But he realized that didn't work either. It just made him hungry and grumpy and no closer to enlightenment. So he found the middle way.
And what is the diagnosis? Why are we unhappy, according to him?
The diagnosis is contained in the Four Noble Truths. And the central problem, the core of it all, is Tanha.
Tanha.
It translates to thirst or craving or clinging, but it's not just craving a sandwich. It is a deep, fundamental craving for reality to be different than it is.
We want things to stay the same when we like them, but they change. We want things to change when we don't like them, but they stay the same.
That is the core conflict, Seneca, or impermanence. Everything is transient. Your health, your bank account, your mood, your relationships, your parents, they are all like clouds moving across the sky. Suffering occurs when we demand that a cloud turn into a concrete block. We demand permanence from things that must change.
So the solution is detachment. But I have to be honest, detachment sounds really cold to me. It sounds like I just don't love my family anymore because, hey, impermanence. If my dog dies, am I supposed to just shrug and say, Annika?
Absolutely not. That is a very common Western misunderstanding. It leads to nihilism, nothing matters, so I don't care. That is not Buddhism. Buddhism teaches non-attachment.
What's the difference? Because they sound almost the same.
The difference is everything. Detachment is standing on the sidelines, looking away, closing your heart so you don't get hurt. Non-attachment is playing the game fully, engaging with life completely, but realizing you don't own the ball.
Playing the game fully, but realizing you don't own the ball. I like that. Can you give me a better example?
Let's use a sensory metaphor. Imagine you are watching a beautiful sunset. It is spectacular. Pinks, oranges, purples. You are fully engaged. You care about the beauty. You are feeling it, appreciating it.
I'm with you.
But then the sun goes down. It gets dark. Do you scream at the sky? Do you get depressed because the sunset didn't last forever? Do you try to build a machine to hold the sun in place?
No, of course not. That would be crazy. I know sunsets end. That's part of what makes them special.
Exactly. You enjoyed it because it was fleeting. You didn't cling to it. You let it arise. You experienced it fully, and you let it pass away. That's non-attachment. Now imagine applying that to your career or your youth.
Oh, okay. That's harder. I want my youth to stay. I want my career peak to last forever. I'm clinging.
We all are. But the Buddha would say, you only lose what you cling to. If you cling to the idea that you must be the top performer forever, you will suffer when you inevitably aren't. If you cling to your self-image as a young person, you will suffer when you get wrinkles.
There's a story about the second arrow, right? I think I've heard this.
Yes. It's a fantastic teaching. The Buddha said that in life, we are all shot with an arrow. This is the first arrow, pain. You lose your job, you get sick, someone insults you. This is inevitable. You cannot control the first arrow.
Okay. And the second arrow?
The second arrow is the one we shoot into ourselves. It is our reaction. It is the story we tell. It is the narrative. Why me? This isn't fair. I'm a failure. This shouldn't be happening. The first arrow hurts. The second arrow is suffering.
So the art of not caring in Buddhism is don't shoot the second arrow.
Precisely. Feel the pain of the first arrow. Acknowledge the job loss. Feel the sadness. Let yourself grieve. But do not add the layer of judgment, the story of this is wrong, or I must fix this immediately, or I am bad.
That is actually really comforting. It makes me realize how much of my daily energy I waste arguing with reality.
We all do.
Yeah.
You're constantly litigating against the universe, and the universe always, always wins.
Okay, so we've dissolved the ego a bit with Buddhism. We've stopped clinging. But now I want to swing the pendulum back. Because sometimes I don't want to just let go and accept the sunset. Sometimes I want to roar, I want to build something, I want to make a dent in the universe.
Then you are ready for the mustache. You are ready for Friedrich Nietzsche.
Friedrich Nietzsche, the guy who definitely did not practice calm detachment.
No, not at all. Nietzsche challenges everything we've discussed so far. He hated what he called herd morality.
The herd, meaning society, the masses.
Society, religion, tradition, the collective voice that tells you what is good and bad, what is success and failure. Nietzsche famously proclaimed, God is dead.
Which people usually take as a victory lap for atheism. Yay, we won.
But it wasn't. It was a terrifying warning. He was saying that the Christian moral framework that gave Europe meaning for 1,000 years was collapsing under the weight of science and modernity. And he warned that without that structure, we would fall into nihilism, the belief that nothing matters.
So how does he solve that? If nothing matters, why should I care about anything?
He advocated for life affirmation, for saying a passionate yes to life. But not just the nice sunset parts. The pain, the chaos, the suffering, the difficulty, the envy, the war. He said you must embrace it all. Amor Fati.
Love your fate.
Not just bear it, not just tolerate it, love it. He has this thought experiment called the eternal recurrence. Imagine a demon came to you and said you had to live your life over and over again, exactly as it is, for all eternity. Would you be horrified or overjoyed? He said the goal is to live in such a way that you would be overjoyed.
Wow, that's a high bar. This brings us to the Ubermensch, the overman.
Yes, and this is a very controversial term because of how it was misappropriated later by bad people.
The Nazis.
Yes, but Nietzsche's original idea was deeply individualistic, not nationalistic. The Ubermensch is the ideal individual who has overcome the need for external validation from the herd and has created their own values. They are their own source of meaning.
That is the ultimate art of not caring. I don't care if society says this is success. I define success for me.
It is the ultimate freedom to alter your own moral code. If you want to be an artist who lives in a van and paints rocks and the herd says that is failure, the Ubermensch laughs. He doesn't care. He has affirmed his own life. He isn't looking for a pat on the head.
It's empowering, but it's also a lot of pressure. I have to create my own meaning from scratch. That feels like writing a novel while flying a plane.
It is terrifying. And that leads us to the final stop on our tour. Back to the existentialists, but specifically Albert Camus.
The French resistance fighter.
Alger.
Born.
Yes, probably the coolest man in the history of philosophy. He took Nietzsche's problem, the lack of inherent meaning, and called it the absurd.
The absurd.
The absurd is the conflict, the clash between the human desire for meaning and the universe's cold, irrational silence. We scream, why am I here? What's the point? And the universe says nothing back.
So we are just shouting into the void.
And Camus says we have three options when faced with this. 1, physical suicide. He rejects this, saying it's just escaping the problem. 2, a leap of faith, like Kierkegaard, which Camus calls philosophical suicide because you stop thinking critically and just believe in something. Or 3, acceptance and rebellion. We must embrace the absurd.
And he uses the myth of Sisyphus to explain this.
The guy condemned by the gods to roll a boulder up a hill for all eternity.
Right. He pushes the rock up, it gets to the top, and it rolls right back down. He has to walk down and start over forever. It is the definition of pointless, futile labor.
Camus says, this is life. It is inherently absurd. There is no final destination. There is no point where you win the game. Your inbox will fill up again. Your laundry will get dirty again. You will get old. You will die.
That sounds incredibly depressing. Why is this on our list of ways to feel better?
Wait for the twist, Camus asks. What if Sisyphus realizes this? What if he stops caring about the goal? What if he stops caring about getting the rock to the top and having it stay there?
Then he's just a guy exercising on a hill.
Essentially. Camus writes the most famous line in the essay. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. The meaning is found in the struggle itself. The victory is in the pushing, not the summit. In that moment of consciousness, of scorning his fate, Sisyphus is the master of his rock.
So the final liberation is nothing objectively matters, so the pressure is off.
Exactly. If the universe is absurd and devoid of objective meaning, then you can stop worrying about fulfilling some grand cosmic destiny. You are free to play. You are free to push your rock, your career, your art, your family, just because you choose to. because the pushing is what matters.
It transforms the burden into a game. If the cosmic points don't matter, I can just enjoy playing.
It does. It allows you to look at the chaos of life and laugh. There's a story that Camus died in a car crash with a train ticket in his pocket. He had planned to take the train but decided to drive at the last minute. It was a completely absurd, meaningless death. And you have to think he would have appreciated the profound irony.
Wow. Okay, we have traveled some serious ground here. We've gone from Roman courts to Greek gardens, through the dizziness of Danish freedom under the Bodhi tree, and finally to the French absurd. But I have to bring us back down to earth.
Let's ground it.
I'm the anxious seeker. I have this theory now. My brain is full. But I have to go to work on Tuesday. I have a boss. I have bills. How do I actually do this? How do I turn this philosophy into action without getting fired or becoming a hermit?
We need a synthesis, a not-caring toolbox.
Let's build it. Step one. What's step one?
Step one is the audit. This is straight from the Stoics.
Yeah.
Every Sunday night, or every morning if you're ambitious, look at your list of worries. Literally write them down.
Okay, so worried about the big presentation, worried about the stock market, worried about my mom's health, worried about the fact that I haven't traveled enough.
Now grab a red pen, circle only the things over which you have absolute 100% control.
Okay, preparation for the presentation. That's it. That's all I've got. Stock market, zero control. My mom's health, I can influence it. I can drive her to the doctor, encourage her to eat well, but I can't control the biology. Travel. I can control buying a ticket, but I can't control if I feel fulfilled by the trip.
Exactly. Now, ruthlessly cut your emotional investment in the uncircled items. Say to yourself out loud if you have to, this is not up to me. When the anxiety about the stock market comes up during the day, visualize that stoic shield. It hits the shield and falls to the floor. It takes practice, but it saves so much battery life.
Okay, the audit. I can do that. What's step two?
Step two is the leap. This is Kierkegaard. You are going to face a decision this week. Maybe it's small, sending a risky email, or big like taking on a new project.
And usually I would freeze up. I'd overthink it for days.
This time, admit to yourself, I cannot know the future. I cannot guarantee the outcome. Accept the dizziness of that freedom, and then jump. Reframe the feeling of anxiety not as a warning sign, but as the sensation of being alive. You are living forward into the unknown.
Step three.
Step three is create meaning. This is Camus's Nietzsche. If your job feels absurd, if you were just moving spreadsheets from one folder to another all day, don't wait for your boss or the CEO to give it meaning. They won't. You have to create your own internal victory conditions.
Like what, for instance?
Maybe the meaning is, I'm going to be the most helpful, positive person on this team today. Maybe the meaning is, I am doing this mundane task with excellence to fund my real passion for painting, so I will push this rock with a smile.
You define the game. You are the Ubermensch of your cubicle.
I love that. The Ubermensch of your cubicle. You define the game.
And finally, we need a live demonstration. We talked about Buddhism and the second arrow. We need to practice non-attachment in real time, because theory is useless if your body is still tense and clenched.
Okay, I'm ready. What do I do?
I want you, and you, listening right now, to just sit comfortably for a second. If you're driving, obviously keep your eyes open, but just relax your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Let your hands rest.
Shoulders dropped, hands unclenched, jaw is loose. Take one deep breath in and out. Now, I want you to find one worry that's been nagging you today. Just one. Don't pick the biggest one, just a medium-sized one.
Okay, got it. It's an email I'm waiting for. I'm worried they're going to say no to my proposal.
Okay, perfect. Now, visualize that worry as a physical object. A gray cloud, or a leaf floating down a stream, or a car passing by on the highway.
Okay. Yeah, it's a gray cloud.
Now, usually your habit is to grab the cloud. You put it in your pocket, you analyze it, you want to keep it, to merge with it, you become the cloud.
Yeah, I want to squeeze it until the answer comes out. I want to control the cloud.
This time, don't touch it. Just watch it. Observe it. Say to yourself, internally, there is a feeling of worry about an email. Note the phrasing, not I am worried, but there is a worry.
There is a worry about an email.
Watch it float across the sky of your mind. It is moving. It is impermanent. It is not you. It is just an object passing through your awareness. Let it go off the edge of your vision.
It's moving. It's drifting.
Don't push it away. Don't fight it. Just let it drift at its own speed.
It's gone.
How do you feel?
Lighter. I feel like I didn't have to solve the worry. I just had to let it exist and then let it leave. It didn't need anything from me.
That is the art. You acknowledged it. You didn't suppress it. But you didn't cling. You didn't shoot the second arrow.
This changes everything. It really does. It's not about becoming a stone. It's about being fluid. like water.
Exactly. We started this deep dive talking about the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Yeah.
But what we've found, from the Stoics to the existentialists, is that the weight is mostly in how we choose to hold it.
We have the shield of control, the garden of simple pleasure, the leap of faith, the release of non-attachment, and the laugh of the absurd. That is a heck of a toolkit.
It is. And it turns not caring into a superpower. It allows you to care intensely and effectively about the few things that truly matter. Your virtue, your choices, your present moment, because you aren't burning out on the millions of things that don't.
I feel like I can actually breathe for the first time in a week.
That is the goal. But before we go, I want to leave you and everyone listening with a final provocative thought. Something to chew on this week.
Lay it on us.
We've talked a lot about grand philosophy, but application is always personal. So in the grand scheme of an absurd and impermanent universe, what is the one thing you are holding on to right now? A grudge? A status symbol? A fear of judgment? A specific outcome that is preventing you from being free? And what would happen if you just opened your hand?
Wow, that is the question. I hope you all take that with you today. This stuff isn't just theory, it's the operating system for a good life. If you enjoyed this, let us know which philosopher resonated most. Are you Team Stoic or Team Buddhist?
Or maybe you're ready to roll the boulder with Camus.
Exactly. We'll see you in the next deep dive. We're going to be talking about handling I miss you text with philosophy. You won't want to miss that.
Until then, travel light.
Take care by not caring too much. Bye.